Hello everyone and welcome back to the Game Emporium, where two friends have gathered around the table to talk about some more board games. We've gathered around the table and a calendar, because it's time to talk about the games that were our favourites from 2021. My name is Luke, that is Ross.
Hey, how you doing?
And I'm doing good, thank you Ross.
Good.
How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm a bit tired, but I'm doing alright actually, yeah, otherwise.
Yeah. We're filming this later in the day than we normally do. We normally do this around like lunchtime. But for whatever reason, we're doing this on a Saturday evening because
That's when we got some free time.
we got some time. We thought we'd do it. So let's talk about board games because that's one of our favourite things to do. This year, as we said, we are talking about 2021 releases. So games that released in 2021. What were our favourites? It's carrying on in our series, talking about our favourite games. So if you've been watching, there's some more up there that you can go and have a look at. Probably floating a card somewhere. I'll probably do that. And yeah, there's some stuff happening. So yeah, it's cool. So 2021, some stuff happened in that year.
It did.
I got engaged that year. That happened in 2021.
And as far as I can see, a good year for games.
It wasn't 2021. It was 2022 when we got engaged. I think. I know. It was 2022. I did not. I got the years wrong because someone said 2021 earlier for whatever reason. They followed me up. So okay, save myself. Yeah, 2021 was a good year for games. There was a lot of great games came out at that point, which is interesting because I think I know why there was probably a good slew of games, because for a good chunk of the year before, people couldn't go anywhere. So designers had time to design more games, digital playtesting massively accelerated.
Yep.
There was a lot of stuff that was pretty good for the industry at that point. Obviously, also not great because you couldn't publish the game so much in 2020, but
yeah.
This will be interesting to see where it went, because your 2020 list was quite short.
It was.
So we'll see how we get on with our 2021 games.
I was going to say, I think this one is relatively short, but it's just strong.
Yes.
I felt like I was scrambling in 2020 to find games almost to fill the list a little bit.
I have a good chunk of honourable mentions that I'm going to bring up for this one. So let's go
with some of those.
Yeah, let's go into those first of all. No particular order, other than alphabetical. I've got Cascadia, the Spiel des Jahres tile placement game, but all sorts of things. It's lovely. It's a chilled game. I've cooled it a little bit. Need to play with the expansion, see how it does. I think I just played it a lot in a very short space of time. So, Cubitos, the push your luck cubic dice rolling race game. It's a lot of fun. I really like it. This one's kind of a cheat. The reason why it's an honourable mention is because it's Great Western Trail 2nd Edition, which is the same game as the original Great Western Trail, but it's updated artwork. So, you know. Yeah. Korra, Rise of an Empire, where you are taking in different factions within Greece and going about doing civilization stuff. It's a game I think you would really enjoy, but we've never got around to playing it together. So, and the last one is Rolling Realms, the Stonemaier roll and write game, which just keeps churning out promo packs where you can just go, just play as if we're in this world for a little bit, which is kind of cool. I like that as a system. What are your honourable mentions, Ross? What do you got?
Well, I've got three. Well, I've got three that I don't think you've mentioned. One of which I think is going to come up on your list, so I'm not going to mention it.
Okay.
The other two, Dice Miner, I had it on there.
Dice Miner is a good game.
Roll some dice, stack it into a beautiful little a mountain shape, and then you're basically, it is a pyramid shape essentially, and then pulling some dice off from the top and then using them to do actions. Pretty cool. Wasn't as crunchy as I'd hoped, I think, when I played it, which is obviously why it's not on there. I know it's just a light game, but I still thought there'd be a bit more like...
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. A little bit.
And then the other one, which I think is going to surprise you that it's not in the 5, is Sleeping Gods.
I'm not that surprised.
Okay, good. Okay, I didn't think. Yeah, I thought maybe you thought it might be sneaking. So I've not played it enough really, but it is a good game when I played it. I have some reservations about it, particularly the fact that you're controlling lots of characters. But essentially, it's a storytelling game where you control lots of characters on a boat. You travel around islands, you make some decisions, you fight some creatures, etc. Yeah, but good adventure game.
Yes, haven't tried it, so
hard to get onto the table, I think, is the problem.
It is. Yeah, it doesn't help. So that is our honourable mentions. Let's go into our top 5 games. Let's start with number 5.
My number five. My number five is Canvas.
Yeah, I thought this would come up on your list.
Yeah, I mean, so really quite a unique game. There's other things which kind of do it, but it's relatively unique. Essentially, you have like a sleeve with a pretty background that you slide into, which is on a card, and then you have these clear cards which have some imagery on it that you're sliding on top of your background, up to 3 of them. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to mix and match different symbols in order to appease some judges, essentially, I guess, really. But there's a series of scorings. So, for example, it might be have a particular composition, which is you have some triangle shapes next to each other, for example, on this grid along the bottom of things. So you're trying to stack the cards in the right order. Obviously, there's a little bit of puzzle to work out because they're all see-through cards. If you put one card on top of another, different symbols are displaying.
Yes.
Similar to Gloom in that aspect. Similar to another game I've seen
Mystic
recently.
Veil is probably the one that I would think of, like the card crafting system.
Yes. There's a really recent game I've seen, which is it 3,000 Scoundrels or Scoundrels 3,000? 3,000 Scoundrels.
2000 Scoundrels is one of them. There is also...
Yeah.
There's another John D. Clare game that came out relatively recently that has that sort of card crafting system. But yes, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, really good. Yeah, just a good, quite an easy game to explain to people. Obviously, really nice to make art. It's lovely taking photos of them afterwards. There is a bit of a good puzzle there. So just an all-round good contender.
Yeah, it's a good little game. I have the copy that you bought me a while ago when you did the Kickstarter, and I haven't opened it yet. We just haven't had a chance to play it yet.
Very offended.
I need to play it physically because I played it on BGA and it doesn't have the same magic.
It doesn't. It just doesn't have the charm at all on BGA. No, it wouldn't.
It's not. It's just doesn't. It doesn't work the same way, which is fine. Not every game is designed to be played digitally. This one is very much a tactile experience, so you need to get it to the table at some point.
The last thing to mention about it, which is like not really that big of a deal, but kind of fun, is you can hang the box on the wall. Like there's a
little
picture hook hole almost on the back of the box, so you can hook it and have beautiful artwork. I don't know if it's within reach. It's not within reach on your wall. So
it's all good. It's going to be on the screen, so
it's there.
Yeah, it'll be on screen. Don't worry about it. Yeah, nice one. Nice choice. My number 5 is a game that I have not played enough of, but I have a bunch of expansions and I'm ready to explore it some more. This is Maglev Metro. So Maglev Metro is a game where you are basically building out a maglev system, and you've got this like little engine that you're playing with that you are going to place some robots into to kind of strengthen the power of the actions. Take a couple of actions each turn, and the number of robots you have in that action is going to strengthen it up. So you've got move, lay track, pick up, deliver. It's a pick up and deliver game. So you're going to pick up passengers from one location. You're going to move them to the right depots for them to be dropped off in. It's a lot of fun. It's a nice little puzzle to do. You've got some really cool acrylic tiles that you can place down so that you can overlap your routes with the other players, which I think is really neat. There's a whole bunch of expansions that have come out recently that expands beyond the 2 original maps, which were Berlin and New York.
Yeah.
There's now London and Paris, I think.
Nice.
There's also Mars and the Moon, and a couple of other ones that are part of the expansion. So I really want to, at some point, I want to be able to sit down and play all of the maps at different stages, maybe over the course of a year, just like try everything. It's a really nice game. The system is really nice, and it's an engine you can build that you can dismantle and reassemble however you want to.
Yes.
So if you finish building your routes out to connect all your different stations, you can just go, I'm just going to dismantle my build section. I'm just going to put it into movement or pick up or deliver or whatever. So yeah, I really like that little system. I think it's great.
I like you can repurpose some of your bots depending on the colouring and stuff. Obviously around that. It's kind of disappeared out my brain a little bit. To be fair, like I enjoyed it when we played it.
Yeah. It's been a while.
It has been a while. I tell you again, because I like to have a little old man grumble. There was one gripe I had, which I think was just literally that the pieces didn't quite fit.
Yeah,
because the plastic pieces was like slightly off or something.
Yeah,
I felt like that's such a like missed trick just to like consistently cut them, right?
I think it's just a probable printing error, but it's such a small margin of error that it's an issue. It's basically the boards themselves are like triple layered, so that you can slot the acrylic pieces in, which is great. but obviously if the board is cut ever so slightly wrong, it makes it impossible to put the tiles in, which does kind of ruin it a little bit. And it's on every, it's not on every space. It would just be on like, I think it was on like 2 spots on my board.
Yeah.
It's the sort of thing that you could go at with a craft knife and just sort of shave it a little bit.
Yeah, you could. Yeah,
but you also don't necessarily want to, because you might just ruin the board. Yeah. So those are our number 5 games. As I spot a spider over in the corner, we're going to go to number 4. The spider decided he didn't want to have any more conversation about board games, so he went outside. My number 4 is a polyomino kind of placement game where you are, hexomino-ish, where you're just trying to combo a whole bunch of actions. It is Witchstone. This is a Roller Knizia game where you are witches trying to just build out your coven, and you're doing this by placing out different hex tiles into your cauldron, placing them down, and then triggering the actions that are on there. The interesting thing of this game is that you can chain the powers of the action dependent on how many of the symbol of the action are in that group. So if you could play down and do a crystal action, and you've got 5 crystal things, you can do the crystal action 5 times, and it's or a witch movement action 2 times or whatever. But it's a really interesting combo-tastic game where you're just sort of playing things out and then just doing the different actions. There's all sorts of fun stuff you can do, all sorts of different victory points you can gain from it. It's the only Reiner Knizia game that I know of that I actively enjoy.
Yeah.
Which may shock some of you. There's a whole list of Reiner Knizia games. Admittedly, I haven't played all of them, but there's a lot of Reiner Knizia games I've played that I don't like.
Well, I think that's, you kind of hit the nail on the head there a little bit, which is there's a lot of games, which means there's also a lot of opportunity for you to not like the games necessarily.
That is true.
So,
I mean, it's just one that I really enjoy. It's a lot of fun. Those combos are really good. The theme goes through quite nicely, and I think all of it works together. You've got this little board in front of you. You've got a screen where you hide the tiles that you're going to be potentially drafting from.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of fun little actions you can do. You can pick up extra actions throughout the turn, so it's quite satisfying and combo-y and puzzly, and I just really enjoy it.
I've played it once, I think, with you.
Yes.
I think. I don't think I played it more than that. I remember. Yeah, I do remember enjoying it. I remember the tile placement being a really interesting puzzle to suss out, really, where you're trying to maximise your turn. And obviously that does also then mean that you tend to... It's quite good because it kind of guides you down a particular strategy or a particular path, because when you start stacking up into one group of items, then you want to keep going in on that, really. So it's just like, okay, right, this is the thing that I'm attempting to do this game. I'm not going to get too scattered by going, oh, do this and do that and do that. So yeah, which is really good.
What is your number 4, Ross?
My number 4, I think, is going to be higher up your list. I think.
Okay.
It's Terraforming Mars, but Ares Expedition.
It's not on my list.
Ooh, spicy then. Okay, right. We've done this well then, where we've covered off some of the games from each other, I think, probably. So, a card version of Terraforming Mars. I mean, I don't know what else do I need to say. Basically, Terraforming Mars. You're trying to terraform Mars. Obviously, there is a big box version where you're putting down literal tiles, and you've got loads of cars, and there's drafting, and there's all those other bits you can do. But then they came up with basically a lighter version, which is a card essentially only. The board's much tighter, I would say, is in like the player board style thing. I think I prefer that from memory over because it's just easier to manage the resources again from memory. So it's quite nice. Remember, quite nice. But yeah, so I mean, yeah, it's not the same game. It's a very similar game, but in a smaller format, which I think is a big win, basically.
Yeah, and it's got the action selection system that is the same as Race for the Galaxy. So you can you and your opponents may pick an action, and you both get to do the action, but you may do a weaker version of it. It's a good little game. The only problem I have, the big problem I have with it is that I prefer regular Terraforming Mars. That's a straight up, that's a write off anyway. But Terraforming Mars Expedition, for me, the problem is I've only ever really played it at 2, and the mode that's set up for 2 is not really optimized for it. It's a co-op mode, but it's a co-op mode that you can't discuss your turns with your partner.
Yeah.
Which means if you both play the same action, you waste an action.
Yeah.
And it's not as fun. There is I think it's a Crisis expansion, one of the new expansions that came out, where there's a better co-op mode, which is significantly better. Yeah, to me, it's a nice game to have, because it's definitely a lighter, quicker version of Terraforming Mars. But I like playing regular Terraforming Mars.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to play it, then
significantly more
time, don't you? But,
it is. I will say that I think that Ares Expedition is better than the dice game. I kind of bounced off the dice game personally. But yeah. All right, that is those are our number 4s. Let's jump into number 3.
Number 3. Right, my number 3. I don't have a lot to probably. I mean, I do have a little bit to say about it, but it was in your honourable mentions. So it's actually snuck up high up my list. I haven't played a ton of it, but I think it's a really neat system. Is rolling rounds.
I figured it would come up on your list.
So I love a roll and write. So any roll and write's automatically just going to get like an extra few notches in my brain on the list of all the board games ever. But I just think it's really smart. I mean, it's really smart marketing. If I'm being really, really cheeky about it, sort of thing, because basically it's a couple of cards for like basically the base game. Hey, it's super cheap. Buy this. I mean, it's any like trading card game or stuff thing. Buy this like really cheap base introductory thing. Okay, and then now you could have to keep making purchases of small incremental values, but you're still making those continuous purchases, right? So really, really neat system. Yes, you have typically, I think it's 3 cards, isn't it? So you have a big set of options. You're playing 3 of them. You're rolling some dice. You're taking some actions. You're gaining some points, etc., etc. So, but yeah, I think it's really smart, particularly if you're a board game fan.
Yes,
there is obviously it's board game content.
Because it started off with just being Stonemaier games, where you were just getting resources. You were going through effectively the different worlds of all the Stonemaier games. So you could set up for the first round, you could be playing in Viticulture, Tapestry, and Euphoria, and then in the next round you'd be going into Scythe. This is where I test my knowledge. Charterstone,
Tapestry,
and Red Rising, as an example. So you could go into all the different realms of it, but now they've brought out so many different expansion packs. There's Architects of the West Kingdom, Ark Nova, I believe either Gaia Project or Terra Mystica is in there. I think it's Terra Mystica rather than Gaia Project.
I'm having a hunt now. I mean, there's so many.
There are so many promos, and there is a Redux edition coming out this year, in 2024, where they're going to basically put in a whole, I think it's another 12 realms? Might be 12, might be 24, I'm not certain. But I know that one of them already is Planet Unknown, so that's going to be really interesting to see how that goes. But they're all going to be cross-compatible. They can all be shuffled in together. It's one of those games where every time a new expansion pack comes out, I look at it and I go,
yes.
Do I like the game that this is based on enough to put this in?
Yeah.
Because it's like A Feast for Odin. I've chucked in there. Architects was in. But I haven't got Ark Nova because I don't like Ark Nova. So
I am potentially waiting for like a bit of a collector's edition to come through where I can just be like, bam, one purchase, get everything, rather than having to like hunt down a lot of them. But,
well, I mean, they're pretty much only available in the Stonemaier site, so they're relatively cheap for the promo packs, but kind of, there might be a one day, here is an everything collection for those who don't have it. It's a good one. My number 3 is, it may appear on your list, I don't know. You haven't played it enough, I don't think. This is a story game that I have played all the way through because it's a really good campaign. It is The Adventures of Robin Hood from Cosmos.
It was my honourable mention that I thought was going to come up on your list.
Yeah. So The Adventures of Robin Hood is a story-driven game from Cosmos where you are basically playing as Robin Hood and some of his merry men. Yeah. And what you're going to be doing throughout that game is picking up. You're basically going to be reading from a deck of from a book of different story things that are going to be happening to you. You're going to have your really nice little movement pieces that will get you to scuttle along different sections of this board in Sherwood Forest, and when you get to a location, you'll read, or your fellow players will read from the book and give you options, and you choose, and it kind of develops a story from there. But all of the actions are done by drawing. The turn order is chosen by drawing discs out of a bag, and then that goes into place. And the actions are taken by drawing cubes out of a bag. So you've always got multiple things in a bag that you're drawing stuff out, and it's a really good system. I really like the element of it. You've got all these tiles on the board. It's like an advent calendar, so you're flipping things over, revealing stuff the entire time. The story is really good. The expansion is really good. The only knock I have on the expansion is that the book is the book that came with that is paperback rather than hardback,
Okay.
but also
Is there thing? It's really silly, but tell you the thing that really blows me away with that game is just the movement.
The movement system is really
The
clever.
movement system's just really just smart, and it doesn't feel, because sometimes you end up with those games where it's basically have like a template that you're using, and so you might move further but you get exhausted, or you might be able to move twice short distance or something like that.
Yeah. If anyone's ever played like X-Wing or anything like, or any minis,
yes, exactly,
any minis
right?
game, you've got like three movement figures that you can
With
scuffle around.
those games, because it's so competitive, you feel really bad if you accidentally like bump your X-wing as you go to move it,
Yes.
and all that stuff. But obviously, it's a little bit like, it just doesn't feel as like, it just feels a bit more like freedom, and it almost matters more as well, because if you stop inside, like under the cover of trees, and you're in the shade, or you're hidden behind something, that's an advantage if there's a guard coming around the corner to come, on its patrol. So actually matters a little bit more, I think, about how specifically you interact. And obviously you mentioned about the advent calendar thing, specifically having to move to a location that isn't just I travel X number of squares. You have to like strategically think about how you're going to travel through the landscape. I think it's really, really good.
It is good because you can't just move through a tree. I mean, there are some scenarios where you can move through trees, but it's not actually through the trees; it's over the top of the trees, all sorts of things. Anyway, it's a really good system. Laura and I played it a lot last year because it was on both of our 10x10s. We played through the entire campaign, and it's a really, really good little system. We took it on holiday. I
hadn't played it a lot, but if I played it more, it probably would be like way up this list. Literally,
the only thing I mean, this is the thing. It's a game that I've played 15 times, which is really good. Is it a game I would play multiple times because it is a story element? But on the other hand, I could play as different characters. There's a second story to go through if you have played it more than once. So there is options there.
You wait a year and a half, and you're not going to remember everything that happened.
Oh, I don't.
Anyway, right?
Barely remember what happened. I remember loosely, but that's because I know the stories of Robin Hood rather than the story of this game. So that's the thing. Cool. That's our number 3s then. So let's have a look at our number 2 games. So my number 2, I am also a fan of a roll and write, and what list of these top 10s would it be if it didn't have a Garfield Games game on it? This is Hadrian's Wall. Super big, crunchy roll and write, where basically on your turn, it is a very multiplayer solitaire game.
Yes.
Which may put some people off, but also it's kind of a nice puzzle. What you're doing on this game is you are basically Romans who have settled near Hadrian's Wall, and you are building the wall and in the encampment in that area in Northumberland. So you're just building that out and trying to supply things and keep the citizens happy and do all sorts of things. And the way that it works is that you are going to reveal a card at the start of the round. Everyone's going to get the same resources, and you then just going to put stuff out onto your board, pay the cost, and get rewards for doing those things. And it's a really interesting combo game, resource management game, just trying to build the engine and focus on different strategies whilst trying to deal with so many different things at the same time, and trying to put out fires and prevent the Picts from attacking you, because they will hurt you if you do not pay attention to them. You're bumping up different tracks. It's very good. It's definitely a game that if you played it a lot over a short pace of time, which can happen.
We did.
We have certainly done. It can wear you out a little bit on it, but I think it is a really, really good game. And there is a spiritual successor coming from Garfield next year called the Anarchy, which is based on another part of British history that is the spiritual successor to it, which looks really, really interesting. So I'm looking forward to seeing that one come out as well. And that might make my list at some point on 2025 games.
I mean, it's spoilers a little bit. You've done a lot of work for me there because it's my number 1 on this list. So, I really enjoyed the puzzle on this. I think it's. You kept saying to me, "Hey, you should play this game. You're going to enjoy it."
Yes.
And I kept going, "Yes, this looks like a game that I'm going to really enjoy." And it took ages, like it always does, for us to actually get around to playing it.
Yes.
And we played it, I'm like, whoa! Lo and behold, I really enjoy this game.
Who knew?
I see what I do hear the criticism that it's basically a solitaire game, but around with other people. There is a very small element around. You give some stone to someone else to kind of leverage some of their their cards sometimes. But it's minimal. But Yeah, it's just really good. Yeah,
Here's the thing.
I mean, I really enjoy it.
Any roll and write game is multiplayer solitaire. Let's be honest. There's very little interaction on any roll and write game. So you know what? If you like a roll and write game, you don't necessarily enjoy being there for the puzzle. But also, it's kind of fun to finish your things off and then go, right, what are you doing? Because it ultimately doesn't matter. You're all there enjoying the same experience rather than competing with each other for different things.
And obviously, because it is a crunchy roll and write, the opportunity for different strategies is there as well.
Yes.
I sometimes feel like a play, something like even just cartographers, for example, even when it has a variation on the scoring, you still have a kind of a system that you kind of consistently play. Like you'll always go for like the smaller piece with a coin, for example. Like it's just a decision you always make.
Yeah.
And you could fall into that trap, but the opportunity around trying different strategies with Hadrian's Wall, which I think I've tried to do every single time I've played it.
Yes.
And I played it a lot, so I've always tried something different. Really, it's quite good. Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah,
it's quite good. It's really good.
The implementation on BGA is actually quite good as well.
Yes, it is. Yeah,
it does. It does lose a little bit because it effectively is playing over multiple rounds, and then you just end the turn and then just move on once everyone's done. So it's very much a case of you could take all of your turns and then not come back to it for a day or two. Someone else has taken all of their turns, and then it's a case of, okay, now we do all of our turns.
There's also fun about, I mean, it's really like, doesn't mean anything, but just having like literally throwing your brick back into the pile or whatever.
It's just satisfying,
like your workers thing. Yeah, it's just something about that as well.
Now, this is interesting that this has come up as your number one, because it means we're going to have to do something funky when it comes to our top games challenge, which you can check out the video for that. Over on Ross's side of the screen, because that's where it usually ends up. So yeah, we'll talk about that when we get there. So what is your number two, Ross?
My number two is Imperium Classics.
Interesting.
So yes, very recently played, but I've always been hunting for a crunchier deck builder, and I think I found the one that I really quite like.
Found the system, yeah.
The only drawback is it's complex.
So let's talk about the games first, and then we can go into your.
Sure. Whew, okay. I can't get too excited about talking about what I do and don't like about it.
And then you forget you're presenting a video.
Yeah, exactly. It's a deck builder. You play as different factions. They have Imperium Classics and Imperium Legends. So Legends slightly more leans towards
mythical
kind of fantasy-esque, right? Etc. And the classics are what you'd expect, really, like Romans, Celts, etc., etc. So you have your deck. Has some cards in it, as per usual deck building style. But the kind of twist on some of it is the cards, initially, a lot of them are, you're a barbarian civilization, so you can play them. And then as you progress through the game, you're acquiring cards and you're doing developments. And as you're doing that, you are becoming more civilized. And then that means eventually that you can no longer use your barbarian cards and you have to switch to more civilized cards. There is two ways, essentially, the game ends. Basically, it gets to the point where someone reaches peak civilization and you do scoring based on the cards that you've acquired into your deck. Or, alternatively, there's lots of unrest. The unrest deck empties, and then you check to see who is the least barbaric or the least has the least unrest, basically. They've failed the best. They failed the worst? I don't know which way around that is. They failed
They're dealing with the unrest better than their other civilizations. So they're less unruly.
So yes, it's really good. But like I say, so the catch on all of that is that because you're all playing as different factions, essentially, or nations, or whatever it may be, there is a twist on how they interact with the deck and how they interact with the mechanics of the game.
Yes.
They can have very big impacts on how the game plays out, which is a positive and a negative. So, for example, when we played it, we had a lot of put unrest back, basically, and clear the unrest out, which means that was never going to be the thing that finished the game.
No. No, we were playing with
it just means, we
had the Celts, I had the Vikings and
Vikings. What was
Scythians? Dom had the Scythians.
Yes, that was it. Yeah, I mean, he was doing. It was mostly you and I who were throwing the unrest back in. To be fair, I think.
Yeah.
So I say it was really. Yeah, it's just. I want to play it more, basically.
Yeah.
Now they've got a new game which I think is literally comes out next week. It's the
Horizons.
8th of February.
Yeah, Horizons.
Yes. next week, as of when we're recording this, at least anyway. And that adds some trade mechanics to it a little bit, because it does make it, because we haven't just talked about, again, solitaire games. It is pretty much a solitaire game. There's some attack cards that you have that might like kill people's population or take some resources from them or something like that. But it's not when you typically talk about a civilization game, you typically imagine there's a map in the middle that you're moving units around and you're kind of attacking it, and there's not really anything around that, and there isn't a lot of defense necessarily either, as far as I'm aware anyway, from someone else doing stuff. So it's more of a mild inconvenience that they're robbing a resource off you, rather than like I need to plan around this.
I mean, Don had some like defensive cards that he used to play against him, whereas I had mine was Vikings. Like, so thematically, Vikings are going to go off and raid other civilizations and take their stuff. That's what they did. So that's kind of thing there. And I do like the game. I did think that the play we had went long for how it was. Part of that was probably not understanding the game.
Yes, it took us longer to learn the game, and
we got distracted because
there's a lot of there's a lot of keywords. That's the thing, right?
Yes.
So obviously, again, each civilization kind of has different ways to interact. But yeah, there's like the last 4 pages, I think, of the rule book
just symbols,
just keywords.
Yeah. Well, it is one of those things that is a really good game. Well, Dom and I played Legends, which I had first, and I never played it with you for some reason. I don't know why. We played it, we enjoyed it, and then it was just one of those things that it never came off the shelf again. So I moved it on. But I kind of wish I didn't, because it's now a case of, well, you like that game, I could have given it to you for a start. But also, they're completely cross-compatible. So you can play any of the combination of decks together. And that as a system, like we talked about with Rolling Realms, and as I've talked about in previous videos about Unmatch, and in a game we're going to talk about in a minute, having that cross-compatibility and mix and match and keeping things fresh and all sorts of different interactions is really good. Where this is better than something like Root is it doesn't matter what anyone else is playing.
Yes.
You just basically go, this is what I'm aiming for.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then cards will do things as they come up.
Yeah.
It is what it is. That's just how the game plays, and it's great. It's good. Yeah, it's a good game. It's a good choice. I was surprised it made it this high on your list, given that we've only played it once.
It's a system and everything that I love, right? I think I found my new passion. I just need to find people to play it with. Basically, it's kind of right.
I mean, I'll play with you. I really
think
like
it will creep up quite significantly on my top 100. Or if we were to do this again in like a year's time, it might.
See if there's another change.
Might be Adrian as well,
maybe we'll see, because you got the other expansions to try, because I think this and Legends came out in the same year.
It did.
So the two of them came out together. So it's just a case of trying them and seeing which ones you like best. So. Interesting. Yeah. Maybe Viscounts of the West Kingdom will compete with it as that deck builder, because we tried that yesterday.
I did also enjoy that. Yes,
that was a good one. But anyway, that's a different year. So we've talked about Ross's number one. So let's talk about my number one and why this is going to cause a problem.
Sure.
So my number one game of 2021 is a system of expansion stuff that sort of all mixed in with the base game. It's Final Girl. So this is a game that it's a solo-only horror-themed game, and that is two things that I did not think were going to be things that I would enjoy in a game, because I like a solo game. I will quite happily play. There's a lot of games I've got over on my shelf that I will play solo, because if Laura's not in the mood to play a game, or Ross isn't available to play a game, I can just set it up, I can play it, and it's not a bad thing. Because I'm still able to play that with other people, great. It doesn't feel like such a financial drain of like, I'm just going to play this on my own sort of thing.
Yeah.
However, I have now got pretty much all of the Final Girl content, because I played this game.
Yeah.
I got a gift voucher or something for a birthday. I was like, oh, I'll just take a punt. I'll get the base set and I'll get one of the feature films.
I remember the time.
And I will just put it in and I'll give it a go. And then I came away from it going, oh no. Oh no. This is...
You got bit by the completionist.
This is a problem. It's not so much the completionist, but it's very much a case of...
Isn't it?
Well, I'm not drawn to go and get like the minis of everything. So the way the system works is that you are basically being the final girl of a horror film. You are the star of the show and trying to run around and defeat the killer that is coming out there. And you'll have your base set of game. You will play a card. or you'll play a bunch of action cards that will cost up time as one of your resources to go around, rescue some of the hostages or the survivors that are also there, get them to safety, or go and beat up the killer. And there is a lot of really interesting combinations of feature films. The way it's set up is just feature film sets. So you've got one which is your basic set. Camp Happy Trails is just your base game with Hans the Butcher, or Pigman, as some people might call him, because he's literally just a butcher with a pig's head on. You've got the Sacred Groves, where you're going around a sacred site that is being overrun by the Avenger of Inkinyamba. You've got the storybook woods.
It is worth mentioning that all of these are proper tropes, like horror movie tropes. Right?
Oh yeah.
So like the pighead guy, and you can probably they're skirting some of the edges on some IPs. I would say probably.
I mean, yes, there is a the organism, which is definitely not in any way related to Alien.
Yes.
There is and then there is the. I think it's called Station 2089 or something like that, which is definitely nothing to do with the thing. But they openly say it is inspired by those stories, and it is a combination. Vanguard Games do say that it's like that, and it's based on the hostage negotiating system, which I've never played.
Yes.
But I don't. It just stunned me how much I enjoy this game. Because, as I say, it's a solo game. I'm not a horror guy. Horror isn't my theme at all. I could not care less about any horror film. Like, I will sit down and watch it and just go, because it's not scary. In this game, though, the tension is there because you're rolling dice to complete your actions and just trying to control the terror, and it's sort of moving along. The more afraid you get, the more inefficient you get with your actions.
Yes.
You have to try and calm yourself down and focus and concentrate and build that back
up. Then you lose out on opportunities to do actions that you might need to do.
And let's be honest, you're probably not going to win. You're going to get the crap kicked out of you repeatedly in this game. And I have. I played a set recently, and we talked about this as part of my challenges, where I combined one of the vignette expansions with a map that I'm very familiar with a Final Girl promo card, which was a Paula Deming. And I set that all up, and I was like, okay, I'm going to play with the zombies and just see how that goes. The dice were not happy with me, and I got killed by zombies in 3 turns. And it was just like well, that happened. And it was just nothing.
There's a good story off the back of it, though, right? That's
like mentally, it's just. I mean, it's not great for Paula, but it's definitely it's an interesting. Yeah, I love it. I love the system. I think it's really, really neat. There's all sorts of stuff happening in it that I really enjoy. This, as we said, though, does cause a problem.
It does,
because it's a solo-only game. So, as part of our challenge, which was to play all of our favourite games from these lists.
You're gonna have to lend it back. You're gonna have to lend it to me again.
Well, it's either
play it solo.
It's either we both play it solo, or what I've done, which is I've put my number 2 game in the list, but you put it as your number 1, which means it's there twice. So we have to try and figure this one out. So either you're going to have to play some Final Girl, or we play both of our number 2s in this year.
Yeah.
Which we've kind of already done one of them, which kind of helps.
Yeah, we have.
So we might have to look at that. But that's something we'll discuss offline. What are your thoughts on Final Girl, Ross, though? Because you have played it.
I have played it. I have played it, and I do enjoy the system. I did enjoy the game. I think my only gripe, I want to love solo games. This is more of a thing, it's less about Final Girl, it's just more about solo games. The opportunity that I have to game, and what I want out of gaming. I think this is where I'm from. So I want to be like, solo games. Let me play some games. I love a puzzle. I love a board game. I love to figure these things out. But then I'm sitting there playing being a bit like, without being rude about it, I could be playing a computer game. I could be doing something else. I love the social element of stuff.
Yes.
That's why I play board games, really. It was almost there, I think. I think the main thing that it not flopped. That's too strong a word. Where it failed for me was I spent like, I don't know, 20 minutes setting it up. It felt like that. It probably wasn't even that long. It felt like it, though. I think I won or played through in 15 minutes.
Yes.
But I didn't have to then have the time to then leave it out and play some more rounds. So then I packed it away, and I'm like, well, I've just spent longer setup and packing away than I have playing the game. And you've mentioned it before, where you play multiple games in a row. Makes perfect sense, because you're utilising the fact that you've done that setup. And the games are quick and small enough that you can do that without too much of an issue, at least from my limited experience. But so I sort of went, oh, that was a bit annoying. but not in a really like bad way. I was a bit like, this is a good game, but that was a bit annoying. And that was about my only gripe with it.
Yeah. I mean, there are lots. There are
yeah.
games that you do have that legitimate gripe about, and that's fair enough. And that's why I do sit down when I play Final Goal. I'm going to play it twice at least, usually, unless a game really takes a long time or I get hit really hard and I just can't. I'm just like, I don't know how to deal with this one, so I'm going to go away from it and come back another day, sort of thing. So yeah, I totally get it, and it does make sense. It's just one of those things. And
the modular thing's amazing, though, and obviously, again, we talked about it a little bit, like as far as good marketing strategies around like rolling realms and stuff. Final Girl, brilliant, because they can just keep rolling out these packs, and you can keep mix and matching. So if you don't like a particular thing, or you do like another thing, amazing. Yeah. If you want to play, I don't know. I'm probably getting it wrong, but a like Buffy the Vampire Slayer-esque character, you probably can fight against, I don't know, Frankenstein's monster. I'm picking things randomly. I don't know.
I think some of those are actually coming in season 3. Certainly the Buffy style one I think is coming up, possibly. Okay. I may be wrong. So yeah, there's
obviously all so you mentioned zombies there, right? As an example, like that's going to change how the style is, how you play. I would imagine drastically compared to like the singular pighead guy who's just like a tank essentially following you around, literally trying to butcher you, right? So,
yeah, it's a nightmare. It's really good. It's a really good system. So yeah, it's my number one. So those are our favourite games of 2021. Ross's favourite game is Hadrian's Wall, possibly in close contention with Horizons.
No, Classics, Imperial Classics.
Imperial Classics, there you go.
I play it more, probably, yes.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. So that's it. So those are our games from 2021. What have been some of your favourite games from 2021? Let us know in the comments below. And we'll see you very soon for 2022 games. If you want to get notifications for when that goes live, ring the bell and subscribe so that you can follow when more of these videos come out. Till then, take care of yourselves and we'll see you very soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.